Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class today. Today's class theme is give. So recently I was doing a 21-day meditation through Deepak Chopra. I love those 21-day meditations. And something that he said in it really stuck with me. And it wasn't actually the theme of the meditation, but he said, everything that you want is inside you to give. And that just really struck me. I don't know, I always knew that giving made me feel good, but I think I often would give in order to receive. But just this kind of idea of giving completely without expecting anything in return was really powerful for me. And so also throughout my day, when I have these moments where I'm expecting something of somebody, whether it's a hug or some words that I'm hoping to hear from somebody else, I just think, you know what, that's inside of me to give, and I can give that to myself. And man, it has been helping. So that's been kind of my mantra lately. So that inspired this class. So we're going to do a lot of movements to open up our chest. When we're thinking about give, I think about my heart center. So we're going to do a lot of movements for the thoracic spine, not just the front of the heart, but we'll get into that spot in between our shoulder blades that tends to get really sticky and stuck. So we'll be doing lots of stuff for the rib cage, but we'll also do a lot of stuff for the hips, because I find that if my hips are open, then I'm a little bit more able to move in my upper body as well. They're connected. Awesome. So let's get started in a comfortable seated position. If you want to sit up on a cushion, you know, elevating yourself a little bit so it's more comfortable for your knees or your hips, please listen to your body. That feels good. And you find that neutral position with your pelvis so you can sit tall with ease. You're not fighting yourself to sit up. Good. And you can think about broadening through your collarbones. And you're just taking the shoulders back and down. That already starts to get this sense of expansiveness in the heart. We're going to take a mudra today. We're going to take Usha's mudra, which is just making your natural clasp. You clasp your hands, interlace your fingers, and you're going to let that mudra relax in your lap. And you can start to center in. So you might start to center in by closing the eyes, or maybe you prefer to have eyes open, soft gaze. Start to get a sense of how you feel, not only in your mind, but in your body this morning. So what are we starting with? Where are we at right now in mind and body? And how is that affecting the way that we breathe, affecting the way that we are holding ourselves? Okay, so if we woke up in maybe a mood we wish we weren't in, can you just see how that feels in your body without trying to override it or shift it? Just watch it. How does this mood that I'm in land in my body? I'm going to talk a little bit about this mudra as you just let yourself sit here and breathe. So this mudra, Usha's mudra, is known as break of day mudra. It's our morning mudra. It's the origin of all great things. And it unleashes creativity, pleasure, and brings about change. And as you sit here, just feeling the breath flowing naturally in and out of your body, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes if you haven't already. And you're going to start to use the power of your imagination. I want you to imagine yourself sitting in an amazing place. That might be where you're physically sitting right now, or maybe you want to use your imagination and let yourself travel to somewhere else. And just start to imagine where it is. Feel the connection of your seat to earth. You can imagine what temperature you would like it to be around you. And it's morning time. And you're somewhere where you can see the sunrise. So start to imagine that sun slowly rising. And all the colors of the sunrise, red, orange, magenta, yellow, they start to have an effect on you. These colors awaken and they improve your mood. And as you let yourself bask in those colors, the sun rising, beautiful scenery, imagine yourself as a person who is full of youthful strength and new impulses. You're someone who enjoys life. And you're a person who goes out into the world with love and richly blesses it with a sincere smile, good deeds, and beautiful things. You have so much to give. As you imagine, knowing that this is true, this is you, this giving, loving, vibrant person. See what comes up. How does that land in your body? How does that affect your breath? Where do your thoughts go? So before we start to move through our asanas today and our movement, go ahead and set a personal intention for your day. It might be around the theme we have of give, and it might not be. You might want to set your intention as a simple word or a phrase. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's an image. Just let that sink into every cell of your body. Good. Taking this mudra, the origin of all great things, so your natural clasp, you're gonna roll your palms out and press your hands away from you. So your arms are at shoulder level, straight out in front of your heart. You can think about sending out some love and go ahead and round your spine. So finding some flexion with the spine, we're opening up the back of the heart. We're pressing the hands away from us. We feel our shoulder blades slip apart. You let your head relax forward. And breathe into that space that you're creating. And if you want to move, I love finding some organic movement, just tapping into whatever feels good for my body. So maybe moving your arms a little side to side. Maybe lifting one shoulder a little higher and then the other. Good. When that feels complete, we're going to straighten up through the spine. So we bring pelvis into neutral and the spine starts to straighten. Arms come overhead. And we're gonna reach through those palms, and notice, you can see me right now, my rib cage is flaring. I'm gonna see if I can ease up on some of that tension by bending my elbows a little bit. Show you. So that I can get the shoulders down and let the rib cage just be neutral for a second. I'm still getting a beautiful expansion through my armpits and my chest and my heart, but I'm not kind of blowing my heart forward. Good, and then again, you can find some organic movement. Maybe you want to go a little side to side. Maybe you want to do some circles with the spine and the arms. Again, this practice is for you. You are giving this time to yourself. Oh, how important is that? So listen to what your body wants to do. Good, and let's break free with the hands. So let go of that mudra, let your elbows come down. So we're in cactus arms. And you can wiggle your fingers, rotate your wrists, maybe rotate your shoulders. And then we're gonna give ourselves a nice little hug. Whatever arm goes naturally on top is okay. Give yourself a little hug, maybe drop your head down, open up the back of the neck, breathe into that space. So you can do this, you could do a little self-massage, you could maybe wrap a really tight hug, maybe your fingertips reach to the edges of your shoulder blades to give yourself a little massage in that tight area. And maybe they don't reach there, who cares? Rock your head a little side to side, sending love into one side of the neck and then the other. Giving this time and love to yourself. Okay, take note of which arm is on top. And we're gonna expand, open the arms back up to cactus. Get those shoulder blades melting down the back. Wiggle your fingers, rotate your wrists. Anything that feels good. Maybe move your shoulders. Okay, let's take another self hug, opposite arm on top. Give yourself that little hug. The embrace might feel different on this side. Maybe we're a little more open and flexible. Maybe we can wrap our arms a little more around ourselves. And let your head bow down towards your heart center. Try not to round through your spine here. We're keeping the spine up nice and tall, and we're just opening up the back of the heart, doing anything that serves you, massaging, squeezing, maybe rocking the head side to side. And as you move and as you give yourself love, tap into that breath. Good. On your next inhale, you're gonna expand, open the arms, take that little cactus, and shimmy out your shoulders, do anything that feels right. And let's stretch out our legs. We've been seated for a while. We're gonna be here for a little longer, so give your legs a break. Stretch them out, point or flex the feet, shake out the legs. Again, give to yourself what your body wants. And come back into Sukhasana, easy seated pose. And if you had one leg in front, you might want to take the opposite way. It usually feels a little awkward. Find that neutral pelvis. And we're going to take our hands up in front of us. We're going to do our stop hands. And so you're spreading your fingers nice and wide. And you can do some little jazz fingers, waving the fingers, stretching them out. Maybe do some thumb circles one way and then the other. Getting space into all those little joints. Good, and then spread those fingers wide, pushing through the heel of your hand, and you're gonna open up the back of the heart, pushing your hands forward, let your spine round, open up that space between your shoulder blades, maybe your head bows, and then you can open up your heart. So think about drawing the arm into the shoulder socket. Now we're opening up through the chest. Good. And then just go back and forth. So it's like we're doing cat-cow. You could imagine if we had hands on the floor, that would look like our cat-cow. But we're really just focusing a lot of the energy in the heart center in that thoracic spine. Good. And we're working. You can probably feel the work in all your muscles of your arms and your shoulders. Good. Let that go. Just shake out your hands. Maybe give them some loving touch. Massage out the hands, the wrists, the forearms. Notice how that feels, giving yourself some touch. Good. Let's take the hands up. We'll do our thriller hand. So dropping the fingers down. This is so good for our wrists. So we often flex our wrists in yoga, and we're going to do the opposite. So dropping those fingers down, and again, just thinking you could twinkle your fingers. And then press through the top of the hand, send it away from you, open up the back of the heart, let your head bow, breathe into the space at the back of the heart. And when you're ready, you can take an inhale, draw the heads of the arm bones into the shoulder socket, open up through the heart, chest expansion. Maybe your gaze comes slightly up. And you can go back and forth as you please. You could also alternate one hand forward and then the other. You play with it. Ooh, that feels nice. Good, and let it go. Shake out those wrists or do the massage wherever you need it. And extend your legs out long, give them a little shake. And as you do this, bring awareness into your upper body and just notice how your upper body feels after doing all those little movements. So being aware of the effects of our effort. Good. Let's come into windshield wiper. So first windshield wiper, I'll do this a little sideways for you. We're going to have our feet together, knees together, hands behind us for support. I'm using fingertips for height. We want to be right up on our sit bones. We don't want to be rounding back so we're on our tailbone or our sacrum. And you're going to let your knees tip to one side, and you're going to look over the opposite shoulder and open up through the heart. Chest expansion. Good. And then you can come through center and take it to the other side. Good. So you're just going to move side to side. You can go fast or slow, depending on what your body needs this morning. So windshield wipers have different settings for a reason. Some days it's a light rain and we want to move slow. And other times it's a tropical storm and maybe we want to move a little faster. Good. Coming through center, we're going to change our windshield wiper. We're going to open our feet to mat distance apart, so a little bit wider than hip distance. And again, fingertips or palms, depending on the length of your torso and your arms. I'm going to use the fingertips for my long torso. And you're going to come up onto your heels, okay? And your feet aren't really close to you. You have about a 90-degree angle in each knee. You're going to tip your knees to one side and then the other. So rolling over your heels, your feet are flexed. And we're getting this movement. We're articulating leg bone in the hip socket. That's essentially what we're doing. So our pelvis is staying pretty still right now. You're just playing with the leg bone moving in the hip socket. We'll go a little deeper in a second. You can make this really mindful. So you could tip your knees to one side. I'm tipping to the right, and then I'm going to lift left knee first. And when it gets stuck and I have to move the other knee, then I'll start to come with my other knee. Okay, so we start with one knee and we just see. We're playing with what is our range of motion. Not too attached to if it's not what we think it should be. Who cares? So the next time your knees tip over to the left, then we're gonna just let them fall. You can let your feet relax now. So it's kind of like you're in a mermaid position, and take your left hand out beside you, and you're gonna sweep your right arm up. Okay, so I feel connected through my left sit bone, and my right sit bone is hovering. Good, so we got a little juicy side stretch. And if you want to take it deeper than this, you press into the support of your left hand and you lift your hips up. Move back so you can see me. And if you want to go even deeper than that, you extend your right leg long, toes into the earth, and you come up into a full body right side stretch. And you might even open your arm back, take it into a little back bend, making sure that your head is a beautiful extension of your spine. We're not letting the head drop. Good, breathe into it. Good, and then start to come down. Let's take knees to the opposite side. You might need to set yourself back up into the center of your mat, open your feet wide, let your knees fall to the right. I'm going my right, so I'm not mirroring you guys. Good, and then from here, you find the support of your right hand, and you sweep your left arm up. So perfectly okay to stay here. You don't have to go deeper just because somebody, me, offered it. Good, and if you want to go deeper because your body's inviting you deeper, then you could press into the support of that right hand and you could lift your hips up and forward. Feel that juicy stretch through the left side of the body. And if you want to take it deeper than that, you know that you can curl your left toes into the mat, straighten that leg, and maybe open into a little back bend. On an exhale, let's mindfully come out of it wherever we took it. And take your legs out in front of you and bounce your knees or roll your legs in and out. And let's make our way onto hands and knees for cat-cow. We couldn't do a heart opening class without cat-cow. This is one of my favorite things to do. I always say if you only have 2 minutes in your life to do some yoga, this is a pretty great one to do. All right, and you don't always have to do it on hands and knees. There's lots of ways we can do this cat-cow movement. So setting up, making sure that your knees feel happy and your wrists feel happy. You know, if you have wrist issues, I'm sure you know what to do. You could come up on fists. You could drop down to forearms and find what's comfortable for you. And then start to move with your breath. On the inhale, you're going to open your heart. Your tail and head will lift. And on the exhale, you're going to open up the back of the heart, and your head and your tail will drop. So a little different focus. Often I get us to focus from the tailbone up to the crown of the head. I want your center focus or initial focus today to be your heart. Okay, so it might feel a little different if you're used to moving from tail to head. Let's see if you can start to get into this rhythm of just opening the heart, head and tail lift. And on your exhale, you're squeezing your breath out of your body. You're opening up the back of the heart. You feel your shoulder blades slip apart. So I can feel my body calling out to veer off the train tracks a little bit. It just wants to loosen up. So I'm going to start to do some barrel rolls. Just moving the spine in circular motion, head and tail. So sometimes I call this barrel rolls. Sometimes I call this the wobbly cat or the drunken cat. It's your cat-cow, but you're drunk on something. Hopefully love. Maybe you had a little bit of whiskey in your coffee this morning. Who knows? No judgment here. Good. When that feels complete, you can sink your bum back towards your heels and come into child's pose. And if child's pose is not comfortable, you could come to belly shavasana, laying right down onto your belly. Or you could take downward facing dog if you need something more active. But wherever you go, just let yourself feel the breath in your back body. So take 3 deep, delicious breaths and imagine that you're giving that breath to every cell in your body. On your next inhale, let's rise up to all fours, hands and knees. And we're going to extend our right leg back behind us, curl the toes into the mat, and then sink your weight back so you start to open and stretch through your calf. You're also feeling probably a stretch through your foot. You can pulse. I'm pulsing a little bit. So stretching, I'm going to come forward, stretch the toes, come back, feel that stretch up the back of my ankle and my calf. And let your weight be centered over both hands and hop your foot over to the other side of your mat and look over your left shoulder back towards that right foot. And breathe into your right side body. See if you can imagine your hips being squared. So do you have a sensation that one hip is higher? See if you can drop that hip. And then play with your weight. If you shift your weight back, how does that feel? If you shift your weight forward, we're all different. You find your perfect stretch. And take your gaze forward, and you're going to consciously, mindfully pick that back foot up and bring it in between your hands. You might need to be there to give yourself a helping hand. Assist that foot forward. We're coming into a lunge position. You want to make sure your front knee, which is your right knee, is over the ankle and it's not ahead of the ankle like this. So do what you need. Maybe you want to pick that back knee up and set it back ever so slightly for a deeper sensation. If you have knee issues, I'll suggest that you curl your back toes into the mat. That will stabilize your knee. You can also add cushion under that knee, holding your mat in from the side. Good, and we're in our lunge. Coming up onto your fingertips, see if you can open up your heart. So if you're really rounded, you could even take your hand up to your thigh. Or if you had blocks or books, that would work too. Good, on an exhale, we're gonna shift the weight back and come into a hamstring stretch. We're shifting the weight back. You can see my knee isn't coming all the way straight because this is where I feel it. So your first felt sensation, that's where you want to go. You don't want to just blow past your edge. We want to be mindful. And my front toes are down. You could play with lifting your front toes. Let's see how that feels. Changes it ever so slightly. Now let's start to come back into our lunge. And we're going to shift back into either downward facing dog, child's pose, or come right down onto your belly shavasana. So you've got those 3 options. I'm going to take a belly shavasana, make my little hand pillow, resting my forehead onto my hands and rocking my hips side to side. And wherever you are, focus breath into your back body. See if you can actually sense the breath moving in your rib cage, in your lower back. And let's prepare to meet on all fours, tabletop position. Setting yourself up for the other side. You're spreading your fingers nice and wide. We've got a nice stable foundation. And then we slide the left toes back, curling them into the mat and sinking the weight back to find your juicy little calf stretch. And again, you can hold and breathe. You could find a gentle pulse, or you might want to exaggerate that rocking forward, stretch the toes, rock back, stretch the calf. And let the weight come centered over both hands, and then hop that foot over to the opposite side of your mat. Try to keep your hips square, and then take a gaze over your right shoulder so you get really short and wrinkly on the right side, and you open up. You get smooth and stretched out on the left side. Good. Breathe into wherever you feel this along the left side of your body. So some of us might feel it in our side body, our torso, our waist, maybe our hip, maybe down the outside of the left thigh, that IT band. Maybe you feel it in all of those places. You could play with your weight again. You could shift your weight back slightly. How does that change the experience of this posture? You could try shifting weight more to your hands. Is that better for me? And then we take our gaze forward. So we have an idea of where we're going, and we're going to consciously bring that left foot forward. Feel free to give yourself a helping hand. And set yourself up in your lunge. Front knee tracks over the ankle. Good. If you have a sensitive back knee, you fold your mat in from the side, you give it some extra cushion, and you could also keep the toes curling into the mat instead of being on the top of the foot. And then let yourself just kind of melt into this. So sinking your hips down, opening your heart up. And breathing into those hips. And let's start to consciously move back, shifting our weight back until your hamstring says hello. So I can feel my hips are uneven. You might want to check in with yours. I'm going to drop my left hip. I think about my butt cheek, just kind of dropping it ever so slightly. So I feel my hip points even. I don't have to physically look at my hip bones. It's called proprioception, where we get this sense of where our body is in space without having to look at our different parts of our body. Okay? So you're going to have this internal sense. Good, and try lifting those front toes. See how that changes what you're feeling. And let's start to walk our hands forward, shifting back into our lunge, pausing for a breath, and then moving back into your counter pose. So after those deep lunges, often downward dog has never felt so good. I just really like that. Or you can do your child's pose. I'm going to take a down dog for this one. And wherever you are, you don't have to be static. You're allowed to move, find what feels good. And even if you're being still, notice how dynamic the posture is just by focusing on your breath. Good, and wherever you are, you're going to make your way to tabletop. And if you were down on your belly, you can actually stay there. We're gonna move towards our belly. Okay, coming into Sphinx posture. So for this one, you'll let the tops of the feet come to the mat, and your feet are hip distance apart. And you're not letting your heels roll open. So you want to actually think about moving the legs in the pelvis so that your heels point straight up to the sky. And you're going to feel your pelvis kind of rooting down into the earth. And then you can start to come up towards your forearms with a sink. Change the angle. See better. There we go. And your elbows are shoulder width apart. You could always test that by grabbing onto your upper arm. If I grab there, that's a good distance, and then take them forward. Good, and here you're nice and rooted through the pelvis, so you don't feel like you're crunching in your lower back. You should feel like there's some space. Good, and there's space between your ears and your shoulders. And then let's open up the heart. So let's think about broadening through your collarbone. It's a subtle movement, but just play between these two movements. So I could shorten my collarbone and kind of collapse in my heart and round my upper spine, right? I could protect myself, or I could open up the heart. Think about taking shoulders back and down, broadening through the collarbone. So you can play back and forth between those two movements. You feel what that feels like. We want to be expansive, expanding the chest. Good. And then with that expansion in your chest, keeping that heart open, you're going to lower your rib cage down towards the earth, keeping the arm bones where they are. Okay, so essentially we're just sinking the head of the arm bone deep into the socket. And you can play between that. So we keep that open heart, but you could push into your forearms, lift your rib cage, and you could melt your rib cage down. So getting this articulation of rib cage moving, arm bones, shoulder girdle, and all working together. Good. Next time you sink your rib cage down, nice and broad and open through the heart. I want you to drop your chin towards your heart so you open up the back of the neck. Keep thinking about moving your shoulders away from one another, so the front of the collarbones broadening. Good, and feel free to rock your head a little side to side, breathing some love into one side of the neck and then the other. Great way to unlock tension in our upper body. And bring your gaze forward and up. Press into those forearms, lift your rib cage, and then spin your elbows out to the side. Let yourself lower down, belly shavasana, make a hand pillow, and place your forehead onto your hands. The back of your neck is long, and rock your hips side to side. Good. Take your hands back by your rib cage and start to peel your body up away from the earth. If you want to come right back into child's pose for a breath, you could, or do some cat-cows. And then eventually we're going to make our way up to seated. Take your time. You guys look beautiful. Good. So coming into seated, we're going to take mermaid pose again. So you can bring your tail out in front of you. And we're going to take our feet to the right. So I won't be mirroring. So my feet go to the right. So it'll probably look like I'm opposite of you. Okay. And then you make this comfortable. So if it's not comfortable having your knees stacked, you could split them. You could lift up, pull that fleshy stuff out away. You find your bones grounding towards the earth. And so this is what my mermaid posture is going to look like today. Your tail over to the right, hands come onto your knee or onto your thighs. And I feel my left sit bone grounded, and this right one, again, is slightly hovering. And we're going to do our cat-cow. So on an exhale, you're going to let the breath leave the body, open up the back of the heart, let your head bow forward. On the inhale, open up your heart, let your shoulders roll back, let your gaze come slightly up. Try not to pinch the back of the neck. Start to flow back and forth. moving at the rhythm, tempo of your own breath. Good. Finish your next breath. You might be on inhale or exhale, and then come up to neutral spine. You're going to take your left hand out beside you, and we're going to twist. So we're going to actually lift this right butt cheek and start to turn around ourselves. And I'm coming into some extension with the spine, so my heart is open. And then on the exhale, you're going to come back around, and you're going to lower right butt cheek towards the earth, and you can even let yourself find that flexion of your spine. And just start to move between those. So inhale, we're opening, we're expanding. If you want to add some arm movements that serve you, you can. Exhale, you're letting yourself around. So you're lifting, twisting, opening, exhale. You're lowering that right butt cheek towards the earth, rounding your spine, curling into yourself. Good. When you come up into your twist, just hold it for a breath. Good, and then let yourself come out of it. Use the support of your right fingertips or palms flat. For this next one, you might want to have your bolster handy. So I'm going to get it ready. It's right here towards the left side of your mat. And using the support of that left hand, you're going to bring all the weight to the left sit bone so this right leg can start to come up. Imagine that it's light. Lift it up. Get a hold of the shin, the ankle, the top of the foot, whatever you can. And on your exhale, you're going to curl yourself into a little ball. Take your nose toward your knee. And then on an inhale, expand, open. Take your heels back towards your bum. Take your knee away from you. Open your front body. And then start to take that knee back, back, back as far as comfortably possible, and then lay it down onto the mat. So we just opened up that hip flexor. And then bring your right hand behind you. And you're going to start to feel this right butt cheek starting to come down towards the earth. It may or may not touch. Okay, so now I'm feeling a stretch on the top of my thigh and openness for the hip flexor. So depending on the lean that you create, right, you just take it to what works. So you could lean back a little further, and that's going to kind of accentuate what we're feeling, deeper sensation. So this is where that bolster could come in handy. You put it so that it would be supporting your whole spine. This is just for people that maybe feel very open, where you would want to lay right back onto your bolster. Okay, so that feels good for me today, but I warmed up quite a bit before I did this class. And so you don't have to do that. You can just use your hands. So your hands become your bolster and you relax into it wherever you are. Good. I want you to have a soft face. So if you notice that you are furrowing your eyebrows, or you're clenching your teeth together, or you're holding your breath, those are signs that the body is unhappy. Okay, we're creating disharmony. So we might need to back out a little bit. So practice to where you can have a soft face. Okay, let's prepare to come out of this one. So I'll talk about, if you're on your back, you're going to want to look towards the left, start to roll towards the left arm so that you can come up with support. And if we're on both hands, same idea. We're going to look to the left. We're going to bring this right hand forward. And we're helping ourselves come up. We bring that leg forward, both legs forward, give them a little shake. Go ahead and pause for a second, no movement, and just check in to see how the right hip feels compared to the left. Good. Let's try the other side. So if you enjoyed using the bolster, you might want to move it to the other side so it's handy. Then we take our mermaid tail and we're going to fold it to the left. And then we set up ourselves like a little mermaid sitting on a rock, and you choose. Do you need to open a little bit to be more comfortable? Do you need to pull all that goodness back and away so you can really root down through your right sit bones? Left one may be touching or it may be hovering. And make sure that your knees feel comfortable. Okay, so we don't want to feel any tweaking in the knees. Never ignore knee tension. And once you're in your comfortable mermaid pose, then you start to move with your breath. So finding that cat-cow motion, flexion, extension. So for me, after years of practicing yoga, it feels really natural to inhale and expand, extend, exhale, flex. When I first started practicing yoga, the breath did not feel natural. Okay, I had trouble kind of knowing when should I inhale, when should I exhale. I always found that the teacher instructed a longer breath than I had. Okay, so it just takes practice. Good. When that feels complete, then you're going to come up, right hand out to the side, maybe fingertips or palm flat, and start to find that little twist by lifting your left butt cheek. Start to move your pelvis, your spine, your sternum, your gaze. I'm going to twist, and then we're going to come back, moving from your hips, your sternum, drop it like it's hot, and bring that left butt cheek towards the earth, maybe round. Good, and just play with that. So I'm using the inhale to expand and twist and open, exhale to come back around. So I'm a firm believer in just doing what feels right for your body. If you want to do the opposite, you want to exhale in this, try it. See how it feels. Does it feel more natural? My brain actually can't go there. Exhaling here feels really awkward to me. Okay, so something that's really helpful for me in my practice is imagery. So as I'm moving, I'm actually imagining that I'm underwater to help get those graceful movements. So you can imagine when you're underwater, everything becomes a little silkier. There's that silky resistance of the water, helping you to move with ease. There's this buoyancy, this lightness. And next time you come up into that twist, you're just gonna hold it. You could have both hands for support. Good, on an exhale, start to come out of it. And we're really gonna find the support of this right hand so that we can lean towards the right, be heavy on that right hand and sit bone. Left leg floats up, we get a hold of the shin, the ankle, the top of the foot, whatever we can get a hold of. And then you curl into a ball. So take your nose towards your knee, tell yourself something nice, and then expand, open that up. Open up your heart, open up the front of the thigh, taking your heel towards your bum and take your knee away from you, and then start to move your knee back as far as feels comfortable for you and lower it down, making sure knee feels good, both knees. And then take both hands behind you and start to lower left butt cheek towards the earth. Okay, so play with it on this side. This is this little opener for our hip flexor. The top of the thigh. This might be your side where you feel more open. This might be your tight side. You see, if you want to use that bolster, you can come down. Some people can come right down onto their back without a bolster. I'm not one of those people. But you see where you're at. And remember, there is no shame in being up on your hands. And again, check in with your face, your breath. And those are your guides. They give you the warning system. So if your face starts to tighten up, think about that as like a little yellow warning light. You want to keep it in the green, face soft. And if it's helpful to just kind of melt into this, you can really focus on your exhales. And the exhale is our grounding breath. It settles us. And an interesting fact, our heart actually beats a little slower on the exhale, and it beats a little faster on the inhale. And let's prepare to come up. If your eyes are closed, you want to open your eyes. You want to start to turn your head towards the right and bring your left hand forward, helping yourself up. Bring your left leg forward, right leg forward, give them a little shake. Using hands behind me for support, keeping that heart open. And pause for a second in some stillness, checking in with how that landed in your body. And let's prepare to come down for Shavasana, but I'm going to give you an alternative to Shavasana today. You could, if you have your bolster, you could use your bolster for what's called heart bed. So it's a chest opener. And you want to lay yourself down so that the bolster hits the bottom of your shoulder blades. So it's not down by, that's a different pose where we bring it a little closer. This one, you just want to have it at the tips of your shoulder blades. If you're going in there, you might want a cushion for under your head. One of my favorite poses. And I just like to think about that shoulder blade, just kind of smoothing it down so that it is attached to the bolster. They're not poking out. And if you're in Shavasana, you can do the same. Think about shimmying your shoulder blades under your body. Okay, and you're making sure you feel comfortable in your lower back. So you've got a nice angle with the pelvis that you feel supported. Okay, so we don't want to probably have the pelvis tilting forward. And we don't want to also tuck it really under. You find that happy place. Good. So you might be in your heart bed and you just let your arms spill out off your mat. I like to have the cushion under my head. So I like to feel the length on the back of the neck. So I feel my chin starting to tip towards my heart, or I don't have the chin riding high. And if you're down in Shavasana, you can do all these tips too. You can think about putting a little cushion under the back of your head. And the goal of this posture, the intention, is that we don't have to do anything, and that can be challenging. So you just let your mind wander, let your body expand. We don't have to stop the thought. Meditation is about noticing thoughts coming and going. You could use imagery of waves washing up onto the beach. A wave comes, a thought comes, and then it gently recedes. And you start to find space in between those waves or in between your thoughts. And you start to find space around and underneath the thought. I want you to start to slowly bring your awareness to your heart center. Just feeling your sternum lift and fall as you breathe. And anything that you desire is inside of you to give. And start to gently wiggle your toes and your fingers. If you're on your heart bed, you could slowly move the props out to the sides. You could just roll off your props onto one side, coming into fetal position. And if you're in Shavasana, feel free to move in any way that feels right, maybe full body stretch or hugging your knees to your chest before you start to roll to one side. And laying in fetal position on your side, just taking note of how you feel. You're supporting your head with your bottom arm. You're there to support and give to yourself. And thinking about the intention that you set for yourself. Bring that into focus. Let it enter every cell of your body before you start to slowly help yourself up. You can use your hands, coming up nice and slow. Finding Sukhasana, easy seated pose. Placing your palms together in front of heart center. We're gonna lift that big old giving heart up to meet the thumb and gently bow the head towards the fingertips. Wishing you a beautiful day. Namaste.